This is your latest Manchester United transfer news. We've got lots to get into on the show this morning. A little bit of an update around Fernandes, but primarily we're talking about Carrick's next signing. Some interesting stuff dropping out of The Athletic. David Ornstein, Ben Jacobs. We're talking Nmicha. That's firming up. We're talking in relation to, who's the other one? Tchouaméni as well. A little bit on Alex Scott. Big stuff around Marcus Rashford coming in from David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano this morning. So some really, really interesting pieces to go through this morning. And I think I do want to delve in on who's Carrick's next signing, really. You know, I suppose for prosperity, we can refer back to the comments on who goes with what, and I'll certainly give you my prediction. But we've signed Edison, who is going to be next. But we're here to talk about transfers. Get your comments in as always. We are going to talk about Rashford a little bit later. There's a bit of a kicker to that he'd probably be involved in pre-season but could still leave. I think it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake by Rashford. I think it's a mistake by Manchester United. And I think it's a big mistake by Carrick to think you can just integrate him back and there won't be any kickback on that. But we'll talk about that in a moment. As I say, I'm more and more open to it. I have concerns about how this is going to play out. Definitely. But let's talk about incomings. So, a few interesting pieces coming out. Ben Jacobs talking about Boadi. We'll talk about that. The Athletic talking about Nmicha. We'll talk about that. And are these stories genuine interest from Manchester United? Or do you think they're putting it out there to credible outlets when actually it's a bit of a we're looking at other people to Matheus Fernandes to make him go, look, if you snooze, you lose? Or is it genuinely Man United thinking we might have snoozed and we might have lost? On Matheus Fernandes, not a lot to add in relation to last night, but I'll put this in and then we'll talk about Boadi and Nmicha stories from this morning and the wider picture. So in relation to Matheus Fernandes, the update this morning basically comes in from The Athletic on their deal sheet where they're talking about Spurs and effectively saying that Spurs are confident of closing deals this week for Matheus Fernandes and Tonali. Sorry, I say confident this week. It mentions they are confident and they could close deals this week. There was also another story about Tonali. I think it was. Let me just get this right. So there's so much stuff coming out this morning. So I don't want to be misquoted or misquoting outlets on this. So the Athletic saying that Newcastle are confident that they can close deals and potentially do it this week. However, Ben Jacobs tweeted this morning that Spurs continue in talks to sign Tonali, are optimistic that they'll get him. De Zerbi is understood to be a key factor in his decision-making process. City and Arsenal also hold an interest. Separate from Matheus Fernandes, where Spurs and Man United are both in talks with West Ham. So, look, I think that Spurs still retain confidence that they can get Tonali and Matheus Fernandes. But what I find interesting about that is that if Tonali is, smitten by the Spurs move because of De Zerbi, you can imagine that those same conversations have taken place with Matheus Fernandes. And it feels like De Zerbi is a big factor in making these deals appealing to these players because, as many of us have been baffled about over the last couple of weeks, why would you go to Spurs? If you're Tonali or Matheus Fernandes, why would you go to Spurs? But it seems we're getting a little bit more that it's De Zerbi who is holding those conversations. Now, the instant reaction will be, well, should Michael Carrick be doing that? Michael Carrick may well be doing that, but does Michael Carrick come across to you as the most charismatic manager in the world who has, a clear and, defined CV of how things are going to work out? Whatever you say about De Zerbi, and he certainly hasn't won Premier League titles or Champions Leagues, but he has done things at Brighton and Marseille, and he does have a distinctive way of playing and a distinctive style. So, look, Michael Carrick has Champions League football and Manchester United on his CV. De Zerbi also has charisma and, a style of play as well. So, look, it's going to be very interesting how that plays out. But talking about Man United, talking about new news this morning, this is coming in from The Athletic. Nmicha is among the names Manchester United are considering in midfield. Having made inquiries to his availability this summer, he is keen on a move to the Premier League.